Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Hyperconscious Podcast. Alan, what is hyperconscious?
Once you understand why something is the way that it is, now you have the power to change it. Great conversations with great people and great questions are the keys to the kingdom of unlocking your consciousness.
Every single action that you do starts as a thought. When you control the way you think, you will control the way you act, and you will control the way you live. That is hyperconscious. Ladies and gentlemen, the Hyperconscious Podcast is proudly sponsored by our friend and mentor, David Meltzer of the Playbook Podcast. He was kind enough to join us on episode 144 and 135.
Folks, it has become Kevin and I's mission in life to help you realize that the life of your dreams is right on the other side of you becoming the greatest version of yourself. Let us help you do that.
I rarely do these things twice in such a short amount of time, but you guys impress me. I believe in people that provide value and of our service. You two guys are on your way to huge fulfillment, purpose, and profitability, and I look forward to helping you both.
We appreciate that more than you know. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another very special, as always, episode of the Hyperconscious Podcast. We hope you enjoyed our latest Small Talks episode where Alan and I sat down and talked all about trust. Today, we are going to do a Scratching the Surface episode on the word momentum and the topic of momentum. I guess it's not just the word, but momentum to me, and maybe you'll have a different take, it's really hard. It's really hard. I'm going to say it is the buildup of energy that carries on and makes progress easier.
I like that a lot.
So that was a tough one.
Not bad, not bad. Okay, so first I want you to go to the hyperconsciouspodcast.com. Great segue there.
That was great, man.
And go to click on join, #HyperConsciousNation, get in the private Facebook group. Kevin and I are actually going live right after this.
Yes.
In that group on the story you're telling yourself and basically how to identify your fears and then get rid of the stories that you're telling yourself to stop that are inhibiting your action. Go ahead.
You're good. You're just looking to pass the ball, aren't you?
No, I'm going to ask you a question.
No. First of all, we have to plug September 7th in Hollywood, Florida at Margaritaville. Alan, I, Eddie Panero, Terrence McMahon, Phil Krismanich, Wade Waddick, and Chantel Adams.
Yes.
We'll all be speaking at Your World Live. We are going to be right on the beach. We're hoping to have 500 plus people there. This is a full day, full immersion event. We're going to change your life.
And we're also talking about doing a potential workout at Evolution Fitness the next
Yes.
day. So a lot of this is in the works, more info to come, but definitely mark your calendars, September 7th for a life-changing event.
Yes, okay.
All right, here we go. So the first flashcard I have for Kevin here is Newton's first law of physics states that an object at rest tends to stay at rest, and an object in motion tends to stay in motion unless acted on by an outside force. Okay. What is your best definition of momentum when it comes to success, and how do you know when you have it?
All right, so when somebody reaches out to me and says, I want to have a successful podcast, the first thing I tell them is don't bother starting unless you're going to do it consistently.
Yep.
Because that is what success is. Success is doing something consistently, especially behind the scenes.
Right.
And that's where momentum is built. It might seem like we have momentum in front of the curtain with guests, with traveling, with speeches. But the only reason that's happening is because we've been really, really putting in the effort on our habits. And we have momentum behind the scenes. For everything that you guys see, there's 10 things that you don't. There's 10 emails, there's 10 text message exchanges, there's 10 conversations, there's 10 masterminds, there's 10 gym session collaborations. Like, there's so many things going on behind the scenes,
right?
But you only see what's in front. And again, somebody gave us a whole bunch of love, and they said, like, I really appreciate the fact that you guys tell it how it is, and you don't sugarcoat it, and you talk about your failures and your fears and the losses. That's what it is. Like, I don't ever want to tell you that it's easy. I don't ever want to tell you that this, like, it was a first try. I picked up the mic and I was a natural. I was terrible, in fact. So That's what momentum means to me. Momentum means like doing the stuff every day that matters, and then it starts to add up, and it starts to get a little bit easier. And then the stuff that you do actually like matters more. You get to do more of the stuff that matters more, that has a bigger impact.
Right.
Right? And then like one speech turns into two, and then two speeches will turn into 2 a month, and then 2 a month will turn into 1 a week. And then that's how it really starts. You know, that's what momentum is. It takes you for the ride.
Imagine if you let's say you didn't know Kevin and myself. Well, I'll start here. So I had another card that you basically it's a great segue. I often say that every public success we see is actually the result of 10,000 tiny, courageous moments that no one ever saw. You kind of just articulated that.
Yeah.
Imagine if you didn't know Kevin and myself, and 2 years from now, you heard this podcast, and we were already a successful, top-tier podcast. You wouldn't know all of the challenges along the way. You would just assume that we had a lucky break, maybe.
Yeah.
Unless you understood momentum. And I mean, at one point, we were only doing 1 episode a week. Then it was 2. Then it was 3. Now it's 4. Eventually, it's going to be 5. And now speeches. It's just, you cannot ever think short term. I did a Facebook Live recently in the private Facebook group where I literally said, okay, in the comments below, I'm going to send out a link to the very first YouTube video I've ever done because I want to show everyone that everyone sucks at first. And I explained a story where Ryan Bliss helped me pick out the equipment. I didn't know anything about cameras, audio. I was so in over my head. I was in the middle of a bulk, so I looked horrible on camera, in my opinion. And I literally cried later that night. That video never even saw the light of day. It's crazy because right now, me on the mic in front of this camera is still a product of that. If I didn't keep going after that first Real Life Superheroes episode on YouTube, that is still
dog shit.
Yeah, not good. Would Kevin and I be here today? Would you have even noticed me? Would I have ever had a podcast called Conversations Change Lives? And would you have ever, teamed up with me with the Hyperconscious podcast? The answer is no. So the key is to keep going no matter what. So my question for Kevin is this. The 10,000 tiny moments that no one ever saw, how does that apply to momentum and quote-unquote overnight success? And what's one example of something small that you do every day to build momentum that no one ever sees?
All right, so can you ask me the first part again?
Yeah.
The two-part questions get me.
Yeah, they're all two-part questions.
Classic.
I often say that every public success we
Yes.
see is actually the result of 10,000 tiny courageous moments that no one ever saw.
Yes.
How does that apply to momentum and quote-unquote overnight success? And what's one example of something small you do every day to build momentum that no one ever sees?
So I think the 10,000 courageous moments, that is the foundation, that is the framework, that is the outline of the momentum. Because it would be really easy for us to sit back and say like, I wish we had more speeches. Shit.
Right.
I wish we had more speeches. I wish we could get like really, really next level podcast guests.
I almost never say I wish anymore.
No, because you're doing. You're not wishing, you're making.
Right.
You're making. And that's what those 10,000 hours are. That's what those 10,000 actions are. That's what those 10,000 failures or successes are. That's the stuff that builds momentum because it's only the stuff that you see that like moves you. Like if you're watching or listening to this podcast, the only time that we're actually inspiring you is when you're hearing us or watching us.
Right.
But it's in the 10,000 hours that I'm working on myself, so I'm able to consistently bring value when sometimes my life is burning down and I have family issues or I have other issues going on, right? Like it's the ability to make it look quote unquote easy. That's part of momentum. Showing up in front of these microphones sometimes is the easiest thing I do, right? Because there's so much other stuff going on.
Right.
But to you guys, it might seem like, how do they do so much? And maybe it doesn't. I don't know. If it does, I appreciate you.
Yeah, right.
But it's only because I've listened to the audiobooks. It's only because I edit our episodes so I hear us talk. And Alan listens to them and always sends me a voice message of like, yo, I listened to the new episode. So awesome. Like every time.
Yeah.
And it's the stuff that you guys don't see. And it is in your life too. It is in your life too. You do stuff at your job that nobody else knows about.
Yeah.
Maybe your boss does, but nobody else does, and nobody else probably understands it either. And when you feel like you're getting momentum in fitness, it's probably not just because you're going to the gym. It's because you're meal prepping. It's because your water's been better. It's because the stuff that you're watching is fitness inspired. Maybe you're following somebody new on Instagram.
Yeah.
That's the reason that momentum happens. It's not one action. It's making your life about that one topic.
Right.
And then everything it feels in alignment. It feels like this is happening. It's finally happening.
What's one something you're doing every day?
Speaking.
Right. What's something you're doing every day that no one knows about that's accumulating into momentum? I couldn't agree more. I'm so passionate about this because people look at the shiny object, the thing that, like us on camera, that's the one time you see us, but that's the least relevant in a lot of ways.
Yeah, it's
You know?
the only reason we're good in front of the microphone, in front of the camera on coaching calls is because we know we have to get better. So that's what it's all about. Every day, I've talked about this. I think you guys, if you're watching or listening, know I do this. But every day I get up at 4:30 and I'm listening to something while I foam roll. I'm learning first thing in the morning, every morning, whether it's high performance habits, whether it's emotional intelligence, whether it's... Go ahead.
What if you told Kevin 3 years ago what you just said?
Oh, not a chance.
What would you think?
I would think it's a different Kevin. It would have to be a different Kevin. I wouldn't do it.
So you Kevin, now goes back 3 years ago, talks to pre-podcast Kevin and says, I don't know if you know this about me, but I wake up every single day and I learn first thing in the morning.
Because
what would
want
that
to.
Kevin say?
Oh, he would punch him right in the throat. He would say, "Who the hell are you?"
Isn't that fucking crazy?
It's very crazy. But the thing is, and it is crazy, but that's because I wasn't passionate about anything. Like when we had Linton Vassell on, he's a professional mixed martial artist. I'm sure he likes waking up early and going to the gym.
Yeah.
I'm sure, and I'm going to use my favorite analogy, my favorite example. If you are like super into animals and you have a what am I trying to
Dog
say?
shelter.
A dog shelter. You might wake up at 4:30 in the morning and listen to something about business to make your dog shelter better. I have a reason now to wake up. I never did before. And that's what we're trying to... If you have a reason to get up early, then you know what I'm talking about. You're excited about it. If you don't, then that's our goal, is to help you find that thing that literally gets you out of bed in the morning.
Yeah.
Like, that's the difference. I just never had anything to get me out of bed.
One of the other things I wanted to make sure I mentioned on this episode, because momentum is so important. You know when you have it, but it's very difficult to create, and it takes a long time, and it takes a while for the payoff. But once you have it, you never want to lose it. So the dramatic reading talks about the merry-go-round and how much effort it takes at first to get it spinning, and then eventually you can barely, you can jump off and run for a little while and then get it to keep spinning. And that's what momentum is. So what I wanted to ask Kevin was this: I think momentum can be positive or negative. There are times in my life with alcohol where I had momentum in the wrong direction. In other words, at one point 6 shots was not a lot.
Yeah.
You know, so what's an example in your life where you had momentum, but maybe towards something that wasn't what's best for you?
Oh, man. When I was 20, it wasn't when I was 21. I think I was 23. I used to go out drinking Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and sometimes Sunday. I spent $5,000 in a summer. In 3 months, I think I spent $5,000 on drinking. Going out. Yeah. I would just do reckless stuff. I would just do reckless stuff.
Would you argue that you had momentum?
Oh, yeah. I had very, very negative momentum, for sure. Because it was one of the things about momentum to me is it makes things either easier or harder. Now, it made me going out easier because it was something I was always doing. It just felt normal. But it also affected my decisions in a negative manner. I almost got fired from my job when I was a personal trainer. I had to call out of work because I was so hungover.
Oh, yeah.
I literally woke up at 6 in the morning after getting home at 3. I took a shower. I fell back asleep and then took another shower thinking it was my first shower, and my mom wouldn't let me go. She said, you're still drunk. And I was like, no, I got to go. And I got in a fight with my mom because she was trying to be a good mother and not let me drive drunk to work at 6 in the morning. I got angry because of that. But you can see how...
You've come a long way.
Thank you. I appreciate that. You can see how that momentum could have kept. If I kept doing that, it would have gotten worse.
Right.
You want to talk about bad momentum? Okay.
Please.
Somebody very close to me, that's no longer close to me, got hurt, tore his ACL, and then he got addicted to the pills. And then the pills turned into alcohol, and the alcohol turned into Coke, and the Coke turned into other things and other pills, and then that turned into heroin. That's negative momentum. Right. Where on the opposite side, it could be you get out of a bad relationship, and then you become a newly empowered woman, and then you start a podcast, and then you start doing speeches, and then you do one-on-one coaching, and then you have a company that is focused on empowering other women. You turn that negative into positive momentum. You just built it up over time.
Right.
I think you can go either way.
How do people identify where they have momentum in their lives, both positive and negative, and then what do they do about it when it's a negative thing?
Oh, man, when it's a negative, I think you have to put a hard stop to it.
Right.
Like, what's a good way to stop a train? You cut the tracks off. It'll stop. It's gonna be bumpy, but if there's
crash.
If there's tracks, it's gonna keep rolling. You got to cut those tracks. Maybe those tracks are people.
What's an example? Let's say someone. Okay, at one point, I don't know if I want to use that because people have a thing about that. I was gonna say marijuana, but that's not bad. Okay, so you want to stop smoking cigarettes. You have momentum. It started with just one.
Yeah.
And then one turned into two turned into four turned into a pack a fucking day. Okay, how do you stop smoking?
I think there's several ways. Why are you smoking? Are you smoking because you're addicted now? Are you smoking because of the crowd you hang out with? Are you only smoking when you drink, but you drink 4 times a week?
Right.
I think it depends on why.
Right.
I would say figure out a why power. If you have a kid, there's your why power. You do not need to be smoking. You should be around for your kid's life.
Right.
You should be there for their wedding day. You should be there when they have children. You should be there, for family vacations. Like, you should be there.
Right.
So create a why. That is one thing. Separate yourself from what is helping build the momentum. If it's people, places, things, ideas, feelings.
Fire. Yeah.
If it's something that's stressing you out, get less stress or do better with stress reduction.
I'll say one thing too, 3/5. If
Yeah.
3/5 of your closest associations smoke cigarettes, most likely you do as well. So try to shift that. Absolutely. Is there something in your life that you really had momentum on that you turned around?
Negative to positive?
Yeah, negative to positive. That
I
you
would say
turned a
my-
negative into a positive.
I would say my mindset.
Okay. What was your negative momentum?
So I showed you the chart that I made
Right.
for our speech. I'm not going to go into it right now because I don't know it that well. I need to study it more so I can have very good practical
I actually know
examples.
it. I
Of course you do. You and your visual
So
memory.
the first one is lack of, basically a lot of uncertainty.
Yes.
Is the beginning.
So this is going to be called the Confidence Conundrum,
fire.
right? So
And this is perfect for momentum because it's a wheel.
yeah,
Picture
so
this wheel going down a hill.
so
Go
it's 4 different parts,
Yep.
right? It's lack of certainty,
ahead.
which creates lack of action.
Yep.
Then your lack of action creates lack of results. Now you have a lack of results, which then goes back and proves to you that you don't have any confidence because you don't have any results.
Exactly.
So that is the confidence conundrum that I will be speaking on.
So you have no confidence, which gives you a lot of uncertainty. That uncertainty creates lack of action. The lack of action creates little or no results. And then that reaffirms your belief that you
Yeah.
aren't confident.
But if you want to flip that
How
to
do you
a,
flip it?
a
Yeah.
positive,
Right.
so then everybody has uncertainty, I think, at a time.
Oh, yeah.
Everybody does. So that uncertainty is still there in the number 1 box. But the number 2 is not lack of action. It's taking action.
How do people take action with uncertainty? 'Cause
Belief.
That is huge.
Belief/confidence. Know that even if this doesn't work out, I will be better for it because I will have more ammunition to shoot later.
You wrote something on the slide specifically that people can do. Oh, it's know that I can learn this even if
yeah.
I fuck it up.
Well, that's not what I put on there.
That's
but
not what he put on the slide.
I think a lot of people focus too much on I don't know what to do and not enough on I will be able to figure this out.
Right.
Yeah.
Because the only way you're going to learn is through action.
Yeah.
How do you learn how to play basketball? You take some shots and you miss.
Right. And then you hang out with people or you Google it or you whatever it is that helps you
Right.
learn. What was the original question?
The original question was where did you have that negative cycle?
Oh, okay.
And then how did you turn it around?
So the reason I made the confidence conundrum was because it was my life. That was my life regarding my mindset.
Right. It's like a loop.
I didn't
just
have
stay and live there.
I didn't have any certainty, so I didn't take any action. I didn't take any action, so I never got any results. I never got any results, so I always assumed that I wasn't confident and I wasn't worthy and I wasn't enough and I wasn't talented or smart or good looking, any of those things.
All right, one thing someone can do to shift that, to start building, because that cycle you described is absolutely critical because it's going to build your insecurity.
Yeah.
And if you shift it, it's going to build your confidence.
Yeah.
How did you shift it?
There's different ways, I think, get around somebody who's confident.
Okay.
You can borrow belief. I firmly believe you can borrow belief.
Right.
Now, when you're in a dark room alone, is that belief still going to be there? Maybe not. But that's why it's called borrow.
Maybe some level of it.
There might be some. It might be more than you had before, but get around somebody who believes in you because it's going to make you'll have to believe in yourself a little bit more or you won't be able to stay in the room. You'll either get so sick of hearing, hey, you're capable of more, that you'll leave the room, or you'll start believing in yourself a little bit more, enough to start.
Right.
I firmly believe you can borrow belief.
That's huge. That's huge. Okay. I actually think all 5 of your steps are ways to turn
I am
that around.
sweating. My back is sweating because I'm fired up.
Oh, here we go.
Yeah.
Last one. I often say we are all on the horse of habit, but what really matters is where is that horse headed?
Oh, wow.
Yeah, right.
Giddy up.
Right. For the listeners, Kevin.
That's me.
Some
would call me Jeff.
some would say Jeff. What are 3 examples of habits that you did long enough to gain momentum that changed your life the most? So if people want to change their life the most, what are 3 habits that they can start creating?
Wow. All right. I'll do fitness number 1.
Fire.
People look at me strange when I tell them I eat whatever I want. It's the only reason I'm able to do it is because I've done it for long enough. I was talking to somebody recently about intuitively eating. And the problem with intuitive eating for people who aren't intuitive is they don't know what that actually means. You can't eat with intuition if you haven't built the intuition yet.
Fact.
You know?
That was
But that's a lot of people. It's like,
I know.
The only reason I'm able to do that is because I know that apple has 120 calories.
Right.
You know, I know that chicken breast has, 47 per ounce or whatever it is.
47 per ounce cooked.
Yeah, so that the only reason I'm able to intuitively eat is because I'm more aware of what actually is. So
Which is predicated on you not intuitively eating for 6 years.
Right.
Or whatever.
Right, longer than that. Yeah, longer than that. So that's one thing for sure.
So that's number 1. Fitness.
Fitness. And then mindset fitness. I've done this long enough now where I've become far more confident because I have more value in myself. I feel like, I've told you this, I just feel like I'm a better person. I feel like I'm a more well-rounded person than I used to be. You know, I might not have all the things I want, but I have all the things I once wanted within myself. I'm confident. I'm capable. I have great relationships. You know, I have things that I always felt
Jacked.
that I was missing. Jacked. He's got the biceps on. Yeah, so that's another thing. So not only my body, but my mind.
So fitness and mental fitness.
Fitness, mental fitness. Interesting.
3rd one. That changed your life most.
That changed my life.
That you have momentum on. So far, I think you have momentum in both of those. For sure.
I would say belief. I know that's kind of mindset, but it's not though. Like,
Okay.
I use the example that this is episode 180 something, like probably 180, maybe 184, 185. It took me up until like 150 episodes to get confident at this podcasting thing. Okay? Now Alan and I have 2 speeches booked.
Oh, yeah.
And I've never done a speech. That never,
Kudos to you.
never would have happened 2 years ago. I
know.
wouldn't even go to the speech, never mind be the one speaking at it.
Yeah.
So for me, that belief is something that I never had. And I separate it from mindset because, yeah, sometimes mindset will get me motivated. Sometimes mindset will help me persevere. But having the belief in myself is the most important thing because I've always been resilient. I've always had a never quit attitude. I just didn't know what I was capable of.
And now you do?
Yeah. If I didn't feel like I had belief, momentum, I wouldn't be booking speeches.
That's true.
You
That's
know?
a good point.
And all these in-person podcasts, like all these things that I once
think we
wanted.
take that for granted. I take that for granted.
You've always had it.
I know. I really do take that for granted.
always had
Sometimes
it.
when I hang out with people that don't have that, I'm like, I realize that that's so important. So important.
Yeah.
That's absolute fire. One thing that I want to say to all the listeners is this. I think I always go back to this. There's a book by John Maxwell called Today Matters, and it's very simple. The key to your long-term success lives in your daily routine.
Yeah.
And I'm big on daily routine because, yeah, you can look at the shiny objects and see people on the court winning or on stage winning or on a podcast winning or whatever. But at the end of the day, it's what they're doing alone every day that I think makes or breaks that. And Jim Rohn says that it's an apple a day to keep the doctor away, not 7 apples on Sunday.
Yeah. You miss one Sunday, you miss an entire week.
Exactly. So whatever it is that you're doing, you are gaining momentum in that thing. Make sure that momentum is bringing you somewhere that you know you'll be proud of and that you won't regret.
Dramatic reading time. I just wanted to give another example too.
Please.
So Grant Cardone says that the second sale is easier than the first.
Yeah.
Right? So if you can get somebody to say yes one time and maybe it's, sign up to this course for $1. And then the next level is sign up, you signed up for $1. You might as well buy the $97 course now.
Yeah.
I think that's because it's momentum. That's part of momentum. If you find yourself saying, oh man, I've eaten like shit all week, you have momentum. It's easier for you to eat like shit until you hit the point where you're like, I'm really sick of this. That's the stop. Boom. You're cutting the tracks off.
Okay. I like that a lot. I often say that it's not about not falling down. It's how quick you can get up and how much smarter you'll be when you get up. This is something we're going to talk about on the 5-minute clinic of reflection.
Sure.
But someone who has momentum in a good way starts to slide just a little bit. It's like I always use the analogy at the beach. You're in the inner tube, you're floating in the water, and all of a sudden you're like a mile away from your towels.
Sharks, man. Nope. Pass.
Right. I actually just watched a documentary about the ocean recently. Sharks.
Pass.
Hard pass. But anyways, how does someone recognize when they're slipping? So that they don't have to go off the rails,
That's
man.
a good question. It depends. I think you know. You know, if you have hard set habits, you know if you're not doing your habits. You told me today.
Oh, yeah.
You said I haven't been keeping up with my habits. I haven't either.
Yeah.
Matt was away on vacation last week.
Yeah.
And I didn't get up at 4:30 every day like I usually do because it was easier not to. Did I regret it? For sure.
Me too.
I didn't feel the same.
Same.
And I realized
I didn't feel the
shit,
momentum.
I'm building bad momentum right now.
Yeah, straight up.
You know, today I was up early and back after it.
Now I have my sacred 3 hours of every day at the beginning. Okay,
Classic.
Here we go. All right, dramatic reading time.
What is this? What is this from? What work of
Book?
writing is this from?
Work of book. Okay, so this is from, I don't know if you've ever heard of it. It's called The Compound Effect.
Ah, yes. Timer 2.
By Darren Hardy. Jumpstart your income, your life, and your success. Okay, here we go. If you remember your high school physics class, you do, don't you? You'll recall Newton's first law, also known as the law of inertia. Objects at rest tend to stay at rest unless acted on by an outside force. Objects in motion tend to stay in motion unless sometimes something stops their momentum. Put another way, couch potatoes tend to stay couch potatoes. Achievers tend to stay achievers because they find a success rhythm. Continue busting their butts and end up achieving more and more. It's not easy to build momentum, but once you do, look out. Do you remember playing on merry-go-rounds? I used this earlier. When you were a kid. A bunch of your friends piled on, weighing the thing down, and then chanted as you worked to get the thing moving. Getting started was slow going. The first step was always the hardest, getting it to move from a standstill. You had to push and pull, grimace and groan, and throw your entire body into the effort. 1 steps, 2 steps, 3 steps. It seemed like you were getting nowhere.
Nowhere.
After a long and hard effort, finally you were able to get up a little bit of speed and run alongside it. Even though you were moving and your friends were cheering louder to get the speed you really wanted, you had to keep running faster and faster, pulling it behind you as you ran with all your might. Finally, success. You jumped on and joined your friends in the joy of feeling the wind on your face and watching the outside world turn into a smear of colors. After a while, when the merry-go-round started to slow down, you'd hop off and run alongside for a minute to get the speed back up. Or you could simply give it a couple good pushes and then hop back on. Once the merry-go-round was spinning at a good clip, momentum took over, making it easy to keep going. Folks, Kevin's been doing fitness for 10 years. He's going to make it look easy, trust me. Every time we get in the gym with somebody, he makes it look easy. He squats ass to grass, for lack of better phrasing, with 3 plates on it. I can't do that, but I'm not dumb enough to sit there and go, you know what, that's a decade of squatting.
Is it raining out?
I don't know. It does sound like it.
Ladies and gentlemen, I and Alan both challenge you, we got to get out of here quickly, to try to figure out where the momentum in your life is coming from, and what it is going to make of you. Where is it actually taking you? And if it's bad, break the tracks. If it's good, double down on it. Keep doing what got you there in the first place. One of the biggest mistakes people make is they stop. They feel like momentum is carrying them and they stop. It'll keep carrying you for a little bit, but it's going to stop. That wave will run out eventually. We hope you enjoyed this episode. Up next, we are lucky enough to sit down with Brandon Farbstein. He is a motivational speaker and an author. He was diagnosed with a rare form of dwarfism when he was 2 years old. He stands at 3'9", but he has an incredibly big heart. He's trying to change the world. He's all about empowering others, and he is an intelligent, incredible young man. He will be chatting with us on Sunday.
I'm very excited for this episode. I love meeting people who never let excuses get the best of them, and this is definitely one of those stories. It's going to inspire the hell out of you.
We hope you will enjoy, and we will talk to you then.
Talk to you soon.
Bye. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so very much for listening to another episode of the Hyper Conscious Podcast.
Going hyperconscious will absolutely change your life, because if you understand why something is the way it is, now you have the power to change it. If you going hyperconscious with us has changed your life in any way, please share this episode with one of your friends, because the more people that go hyperconscious, the better this world's going to be for everybody.
And if you would kindly leave us a 5-star review on iTunes, that would help us make more people hyperconscious, and we would be greatly appreciative.
Thank you.
Bye.